Hello! Today we're covering the myth of Sisyphus. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Anyway, so I'm gonna title this Why Sisyphus Smiles. And what am I doing? I just wanted to talk about, I've been reading a little bit recently, and I started my friend started a little book club for us, and we read The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. I asked my French manager how to say Albert Camus, because I've been saying Albert Camus, and he said it really beautifully. I'm not even going to try, and I can't do a French accent, but for best of my knowledge, French-Algerian philosopher, absurdist, seen him called on the internet. I should go ahead and mention that I only read the book one time, partly on audiobook while on a road trip, and I discussed it a little with my roommate who's read probably half or most of it, I'm not really sure, but I haven't watched any YouTube videos or read any analysis or text. This is just my interpretation. So everything I say out from here on out, it's just my interpretation, man. So I may forget some parts, misinterpret, forget, and I by no means am an expert philosopher or even a good reader, probably, but I'm going to focus on what I found interesting in the book. And any conclusions or interpretations I make are all judged in my eyes, which may be different than yours. So hop in the comments if I get anything wrong. Let me know if I forget any key details, if you disagree with what I say. Hell, even get in there if you agree. So I liked this book. I didn't agree with everything in it, but first I should say I like this book because Albert Camus is a really good writer. I like his style. His structure, how he presented the whole ideas in the book were pretty easy to follow. He established what he considers some ground truths, addressed some common outlooks that are paradoxical. Honestly, out of all the paradoxes, I just remember the two of everything is true. Well, it's a paradox because I can say that's false, and inherently that statement is true. And if you say everything is false, then that statement is objectively false and not true. And then, so he says those, he explains his conclusions from certain truths that he deems that do exist. He also feels that he also feeds in there other people's interpretations and conclusions they made from these truths, as well as other truths that he doesn't consider true, and eviscerates them delightfully. He is a good debater, I bet. Master debater. And his writing style was these absurdist philosophers were gonna make one false move, face disaster. Street Fighter 3.
How to fight and move faster. One false move, kid, that'd be disaster. I'll beat you endless and continue the day after. Street Fighter.
So off the rip, Albert Camus addresses what he deems to be the only big question in life. Should I Kermert Susu Boo Boo? I don't want to get shadow banned on YouTube for saying certain words, but we're now going to delve into the topic of the book, which is Susu Boo Boo. Suicide. And you thought this book was going to be about the myth of Sisyphus? What? This book would be about the myth of Sisyphus? Maybe getting familiar with the story or the myth? No, not really. But yeah, a little bit, in a way. mainly as he sees Sisyphus's attitude towards his fate to be like a great example of how we should resist our inevitable fate of death with like a smile on our face. So this is not what I thought it was gonna be about. Should I Kermit Sumu Mumu? And that's the question. That's the main question addressed in the book. He believes everything else in life is just construction. Like, any concern or question or decision you have to make at any moment is secondary to this decision that you have to actually make. A decision that could be made at any moment, really. And he does kind of touch on that in the book. Like, you never know what can throw someone over the edge. And, you should share love to people. He doesn't say that part about sharing love. I think you should share love to people because you never know. Like, holding that door open for somebody one day might be the difference. Keep a family having their father or some shit. Just spread love. But anyway, he says why he unpacks why somebody, or at least in his mind, why somebody would Kermit Sumu Mumu. And he addresses that it's like all theory and that it's very poor taste. It's in very poor taste to have this discussion. It's all theory because, of course, you can't ask someone like how they feel after they've successfully done it. Other decisions, any other decision in the world, you have the benefit of afterthought, hindsight. And he claims that, so he thinks that the decision is born in the conscious man. It comes from our desire for unity and to understand everything. He says that there's only two truths in this world. The first being that he exists, you exist, I exist. I, as myself, can say that I exist because I can feel my heart beating. I can feel my heart going boom, boom, boom in my chest, right? And the second is that the world is real because he can feel it. It's sunny, it's warm. It has an effect on me. So he can say that the world is real in some way, shape, or form. And based on these truths, there's a distinct divide between man and the world around him, despite man being of the world, And he claims that this realization, this divide, the crack between one and the other, is what's the basis for absurdism. One of the most interesting points to me was his observation that a man of the natural world is alone in his contemplation. I said the word. No other animal would ever wake up one day and something happens, or they come to a decision. They would never come to a decision to end their life. They would never wake up and decide that they're better off dead. In reality, all creatures and beings of this world, other than us, actively resist their own death, despite the inevitability of it. And animals are aware of death. They know when the soul is gone or whatever, but they actively avoid it. We all have one fate. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. My teeth will rot, my hair will fall out. All because we're inching every day, every second closer to our fate of death. And he discusses this and how it plays into the absurdist outlook. Since we've realized the divide, since we've had the break from our 8 a.m. I get up, I go to the law firm, I do my job, I get lunch at 12 at the fucking Cuban place, I go home around 4, I go home, my wife makes dinner at 7, all this logic. The absurdist is having that realization of the break Realizes the absurdity of his own existence. Yeah. Since we realize the divide, we can, through death, unify ourselves with the world. In a way. Something along those lines is logic. It's that death will unify us and give us that understanding, and we won't have to live anymore. He claims that since we have this inevitable ending, we only really have one thing that we can do, and that's revolt. Despite knowing the end, we can revolt. And when we do revolt, a lot of the times that's seen in the ultimate form of revolt as Sumu Gumu Mumu Side. And he claims that since we have an inevitable end, all we really have is our revolt. Once the absurdist outlook is taken up, they may see Sisyphus as their ultimate form of revolt. It is facing their fate and actively pursuing it, making their own decision to actively pursue it, and hastening things on their own terms. And in a way, the only way to get the last laugh would be to revolt against our fate. This is finally where Sisyphus comes into things. So, Albert Camus kind of says that a better revolt than to commit the act is to have a long, sustained revolt where we live our lives to the fullest and with a smile on our face, even if we don't really have one. We know our fate, so why hasten these things? Despite our mortality and knowledge of that mortality, we can revolt every single day. I didn't explain that the best, but you get me. I'll explain the myth of Sisyphus now. This is my own version. Sisyphus was known to be very clever, often outsmarted many a folk, and he gained lots of wealth, lots of power, as one does when you're analytical and can think outside the box. And he was so clever. He was even known to fool the gods on occasion. Which, of course, the gods did not appreciate this. They despised this fact. And so, just like the Greek gods do in their classic Greek fashion, they punished him in the cruelest and most unusual of ways possible. He was cursed to carry a massive boulder up a steep hill for the rest of time, and should he reach the top, the boulder is always to fall back down where he has to push it back up. And the gods believed they'd get a kick out of this, you know? They'd like to watch him struggle with his eternal fate. Yet, in spectacular fashion, Sisyphus was able to outsmart the gods despite his set fate. He carried the boulder up the mountain, and despite knowing it would fall, he enjoyed it. And the gods couldn't even bear to watch him contently lift the boulder up the mountain. This is Sisyphus with the rock. It's him climbing it up. So what? Despite his condition, he's able to revolt against the powers that be, against his fate, and he continued to lift it forever, which in the eyes of Camus is a much more respectable and fulfilling revolt than the one-time Sumu Gumu Rimi Rimi, something which I can totally get behind. So how should we revolt? Camus thinks the best way to revolt is to be lucid and seize every day to the fullest. Or at least that's how I took it. Because when you realize the absurd, the rhythm of day-to-day life gets kind of shattered. and you realize the absurdity of your situation, your existence, and you move beyond the routine that you've associated with your identity. And when you realize that, you are in a way revolting already. Simply being aware of the absurdity of our existence and choosing to continue existing is the better form of revolt. Not to be lulled into the rhythm of the world, but to remain lucid and aware of the absurdity. What do I think about this? Not that it matters what I have to say on the wise man's book, but I don't entirely agree with the perspective. For me, life is not so absurd. I'm able to perceive the divide between the world and I, yet I'm kind of able to take comfort in the fact that I'm of this world and will not ever truly understand everything either. In my ignorance that I will not learn everything, I'm able to take comfort and have peace. In my ignorance, there's a peace that grants me the freedom to enjoy every day. I believe we should revolt against our fate, absolutely, by living every day to the fullest. I agree with that. To me, life is valuable, and we should maximize it. But it can be done with a balance between this flow state and the extreme lucidity, consciousness, and awareness of the absurd. It's a balance. Sometimes the world has a rhythm, and you have a space within the cosmic rhythm. All things don't need to be planned or thought. Maybe they just need to be experienced, with or without the awareness of the absurd. The occasional awareness of the absurd is good, though. It's like a reality check. It pumps you up, I don't know if that made any sense, but... So that's the end of my first YouTube video. It's not my first, but I read it. Yeah, I'd like to do this more. Yeah, I would really like to do this more. I'm thinking maybe what comes next is my lovely girlfriend got me Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. The first little section, I read the prologue. It's been a few weeks. I read the prologue / intro, and then I read Myth of Sisyphus, the whole thing of that. So I got a little sidetracked, but this book is really interesting. It goes over information and information networks. And the question, what is information? Sounds pretty simple. It's like stuff we use to make decisions with, or something like that. That's what I think. But it's much more complex than that. I'm excited to read that. So yeah, get in the comments. Tell me what you think about Albert Camus. The dude's a savage. He absolutely rips some of these other philosophers in there, which I think is what made the book a little more compelling. Kind of towards the middle, he just started ripping these people. So yeah, if you've read it, if you know better than me, if I said anything wrong, let me know. If you have any different viewpoints, outlooks, critiques, analysis, whatever, I don't care. I would love the engagement. Like, comment, subscribe. I love you. Spread love, man. Peace and love.